I'm going to get the recording. So welcome to all, even though it's a smallish group and we all know each other. I think we'll do it as a regular PISLAP call if everyone's okay with that, but with a little informality. Oh, there's Rand as well. Let's give Rand a second. And then hi Rand, welcome. Okay, Perry, would you like to lead us in our where we are, etc.?
Okay, where we are, etc. I'll call on you and just for the record, say your name, where you are physically, what you might be looking at, how you're feeling. Duncan, we'll start with you.
So I'm Duncan Holloman. I am in Gloucester, Massachusetts, and it's kind of muggy and hot out there, gray. But fortunately from my condo, I can see the water. But it's the inner harbor. It's not the fancy ocean where the rich people live. But I love being able to see the water.
Excellent. Excellent. Sylvia.
Yes, so I'm in Richmond, Virginia, looking out my dining room window. And my heart happens to be singing right now because Molly and I just had a Zoom call with some of our folks in Uganda. And what they are doing is amazing. However, most of the time I'm deeply depressed about what's going on here. But right at the moment, I'm elated because there's magic happening in Uganda.
That's great. It's good to hear. Anne, you're next.
So I'm Ann Friedman. I'm in Philadelphia in an alternate living arrangement while our house is renovated. We have mostly settled the dust from moving, and I can still see a tree outside my window, which I can also see a tree outside my window at home. So it feels comforting. And the other great news is that today the high is only going to be 88 in Philadelphia instead of the high 90s and 100s that it's been for the last few days. So it's wonderful to think my whole perspective on high 80s has been changed.
It's good for the old folks too. Lisa, you're next.
Hi, Lisa Jaicks, in Peter's in my apartment in San Francisco. Outside, Peter's dear friend, Colleen O'Neill, who's an attorney, who's probably the one that should be sitting here, is weeding our tree wells because she's an obsessive gardener. And she comes every Wednesday to see Sam, Peters and my son, run a trivia night and then does something around our house, which is just so sweet. That's what she's been doing since Peter died. But anyway, I have been feeling unbelievably despairing, but I know that all I have to do is engage in either union activity or electoral politics to feel like I'm not powerless. And I just haven't been able to find a niche, but I was just asked by the new single mom who's president of my union to watch her children while she goes into negotiations. So that may end up being my my activism this year is watching the children of single moms who are doing something. So I'm already feeling better knowing that.
Excellent. Craig, you're next.
Hi, Craig here on the banks of Bede-Makowska on the unceded territory of the Dakota people, now known as Minneapolis. And two things that are really important for me. One is yesterday we hosted convened our monthly essential conversation with two people from Rwanda. And as you may know, they just had an election for president, and he won by what 99% of the vote. And the paradox is that he's an autocrat by most standards, by most Western press, and yet he's beloved by the people. And so there's a real paradox there. The other is that our organization, CPL, started something called Circle for the Future. Lisa, out of the same kind of desperation and feeling of what's going on, we pulled together about 30 people to look at and explore 3 months ago what Project 2025 is. And so we've been studying it together and then doing outreach. So meaning telling our networks all about Project 2025, which is now quite ubiquitous and hopefully will have an impact on the upcoming election. I'm complete.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Molly, you're next.
Hi, I'm Molly Sobey and I'm in Preston, Minnesota. And I think the most exciting thing that's happened in our family is my brother-in-law was sworn in as a district judge. So we had an investiture that we went to, and it was really interesting, very fun. He's a really good person. So that's a great thing that happened. And otherwise, I'm still here, just taking care of my mom and my kids. And our adoption is probably going to be finalized not until August of the 2 kids. So that's it.
That's wonderful. That's great. Rand, you're on.
Thank you. I'm Rand Rosenblatt. I'm in the same apartment in Philadelphia as Ann Friedman. Across the hall, we have 2 studies here, just the way we do in our original house. My sister has lived in England for 60 years. She sent me a message yesterday saying, "Is Trump's victory inevitable?" That's the impression she has. And I'm working on an answer for her. And I'm happy to say that I'm feeling like there's some hope, even though there's so much to be very, very worried about. I think there's some possibility that, faced with a stark choice between Trump and some alternative Democrat, probably not, hopefully not Biden, people will come to their senses as they did in France. I'm sort of looking at France and trying to see some lessons from that. Ann and I have signed up to go to the Working Families strategy session this evening, a big Zoom meeting about getting people to work on various things. So we're looking forward to hearing ideas there, and of course here, and other places that we're connected into. So we still have energy. We still have energy. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. Stuart, are you there, buddy?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here and I'm very frustrated from Minneapolis. I cannot get my video. So I'm stuck with this picture.
Yeah,
So,
who's that a picture of?
So I want you to know that here in Minneapolis, we have 70-some degrees today. It's wonderful. I just want to, I'm so glad to be here, but I want to tell you that I think the whole thing with my understanding is that we have to vote with our love, with our hearts, instead of our minds. This 2025 thing, you're absolutely right about that. But if we start voting from fear, we're going to be limited. But voting from your heart instead of your head, if everybody does that, we know that Trump has no love, and you just can't see any love there. It's as such. They're trying to put up this feeling good now, but stay with the heart. I love you all. I'm gonna not have my picture there. I'll just be there. I keep
No,
coming back.
it's a good
Okay,
photo.
just ignore it. That no, I'm here. I'm here alive.
Excellent.
Really. Okay.
Excellent. Nanette, why don't you tell us what's where you are, what's going on?
Thanks, Perry. Hi, everyone. It's already feeling much better just being with you all and just hearing everyone's voices and, you know, just this where we're trying to find some hopefulness. I'm right now in my mom's house. My mom is 95, so I'm visiting her quite a bit these days. And in New York City, and or a little outside New York City. I was encouraged by, I mean, like Rand, I was encouraged by the French vote and also by the UK turnaround. So those were some hopeful moments. I guess my feeling is that I can't think of Trump's victory as inevitable. And I was thinking to myself, you know, what would Peter say if he was here? And I think what he might express is that the social energy can still be moved in a hopeful direction. And the question is how to do that. How can we mobilize ourselves to do that? How can we speak to what people need and feel? How can we build a sense of connection between working people and progressive, you know, forces that are against Trump and moving in another direction? I was thinking about J.D. Vance as well, and you know how loving his wife seemed in her introduction, and yet and I had also read Hillbilly Elegy when it came out, and you know the J.D. Vance who is so angry and so unforgiving as we know of him now was not the same. Wasn't the same vibe in that book, although there was definitely elements of that. So I feel like there's time yet, and we have to work together and support each other in figuring out ways to move the social energy. So that's my check-in for now.
Well, I am Perry Sedman, and I'm in Miami Beach in my condo, looking out over the water, Duncan. I'm looking out over Biscayne Bay, which is the other side of the ocean as well. And I find it
Did you
very
hear me,
peaceful.
or was I on mute the whole time? I'm sorry.
No, we were
Oh,
listening.
okay. I'm sorry, Perry. Okay.
We would have told you. We would have told you. Don't worry.
So I've been obsessed with what's going on. Never could the choice be so stark between you know, the Republicans and the Democrats. I've also been obsessed about Biden and what it's going to take to move him off the dime. I mean, he's been talked to now by Schiff, by Schumer, by Jeffries, and I think by Obama to give him a reality check, shall we say, maybe even close to a, excuse the expression, come to Jesus moment. You know, if the Democrats are going to have a chance, a good chance to win, it's going to be up to the swing states. And in the swing states, Biden is behind by several points in all of them. And the Republicans are going to get a convention bounce. And I don't know, the Democrats need to do something. It sounds desperate, but maybe it is. Maybe it is. This is an existential crisis, ladies and gentlemen. Other than that, I'm great. Oh, I guess we were going to have a go round about what's going on with each of us, but I think I think we've started to do that. Nanette, do you have ideas for what we should do next?
Sure. I guess, the thought for today was obviously the political situation is so much on our minds and in our hearts right now. And so, the questions that we usually pose on this community call could perhaps be addressed by us, but with that as a backdrop, and maybe building on some of what we expressed during our check-ins. So how are we working to introduce a spiritual dimension into our work, if we are? Where are we stuck? Where are we encountering obstacles? How can we support each other? What can PISLAP do in this moment? How do we move forward, a legal culture of love, healing, justice, and compassion? It's as deeply relevant now as it is at any time, if not more so. So maybe just open it up for people to share, and we can see where the conversation goes. That's my thought, unless someone has another thought.
So I want to pose something. I was at a training, a continuing legal education program for lawyers yesterday that Rutgers put on Zoom. And it was about trauma-informed lawyering. And it was a lawyer with social work training and a nurse practitioner who were talking about trauma and its effects. And it seems clear to me that the American people are profoundly traumatized and very reactive and very caught up in anger, numbing, avoidance, all these other symptoms that are symptoms of being traumatized. And those of us who are terrified at the prospect of Trump and have some sense of reality of what really is at stake in terms of political action and policy are not in the same status of being traumatized and therefore angry and lashing out and seizing on simplistic solutions. And so what I'm fascinated by is the idea, it's all this stuff about how do people behave around people who are traumatized? Like all this advice about helping them get organized, helping them feel safe, helping them break down tasks into smaller units, helping them feel connected. And I haven't found, obviously you can't go up to the people who are at the Trump rally in Butler and wrap your arms around them and say, let's go have coffee and let me, because they're all caught up. But I think the people who are in the middle or who are disaffected do need some kind of hopefulness. And I'm wondering what political organizing looks like that isn't just, let me educate you about 2025 and let me talk to you about policy. But what does it look like to somehow come together about how awful it's been to go through climate fears and the Israel-Gaza stuff and the loss of hope around and this COVID and all the energy that took out and sort of all the angst. So I don't know how you mobilize from there, but that's what I'm wondering.
So I'll speak to that because one of the things I've been thinking about is, because I'm a psychologist, the role of emotion in all this, and I certainly agree with you about the importance of being trauma informed. Certainly, trauma has informed a lot of my practice over the years. And the book that Kim Wright and Helga Magi and two others put together about trauma-informed law is really quite excellent. I wish it weren't quite so expensive, but I went ahead and bought it. And it's really very good. And it has a lot of personal stories in it, as well as practical advice about what to do, and a lot of really good theory. I am concerned that the strategy that the Democrats have taken is to increase the level of fear that Trump is a threat to a democracy, and that we need to mobilize ourselves against a threat. And that's precisely what Trump is doing, is saying we need to mobilize ourselves against a threat. And unfortunately, I think the consequence of that is to actually make people more conservative. There's a lot of data that says that the more frightened you are, the more conservative you become. And that makes sense, because you get more self-protective and you're more interested in law and order. You're more interested in a strong person who's going to impose that law and order. And so I think it's important for the Democrats to offer something that people can fight for rather than fight against. And I'm not quite sure why it is that so many people seem to graduate to approach a political dispute in terms of how best to scare the crap out of the other person. Certainly frightening people is very motivating. I totally get that. But there needs to be some kind of antithesis here to what Trump is doing to just scare the hell out of people.
Well, the Democrats are doing the same thing. I get 10 emails a day from the Biden campaign that talk about the terrible things that are going to happen if Trump is elected. I mean, they're both sides are fear mongering. And although Biden has many wonderful accomplishments in the last 3.5 years, and he frequently talks about them, and they are truly remarkable accomplishments. I think you're right. They don't motivate people to go to the polls and necessarily vote for him. And it's only, I don't know, I mean, their strategy seems to be one of fear. If Trump gets elected, it'll be catastrophic. And Trump says the same thing. If Biden gets elected, it'll be catastrophic. So it's the battle of the catastrophes, if you will. Mm-hmm. I don't think that leads to mutual understanding or respect, obviously, like you said, but I'm not quite sure how to go about dealing with it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that's been expressed about the importance of the campaigns moving away from fear, and just talking about healthcare as a human right, the right to have a decent home that you can afford, to have your just basic needs cared for, to feel cared for in a sense, and it that message, I think, is really the only way here. And in a sense, hearing J.D. Vance, I'm thinking, that the Trump campaign is now trying to, sort of present itself even more than it has as the party of working people. I think it becomes ever more important for a positive vision of what can be done, and what we're committed to, has to be put forward. And I agree that it's very important to understand, know about Project 2025 and what could happen. Of course, we can't ignore that, but I agree with everyone that a positive vision is really the only way to go. I think Bernie Sanders has really taken that position. And I think that's, he's pointing the campaign in that direction. So I hope they pick that up.
Uh, let me jump in here. I've been fascinated for a long time by the mystery of why egalitarian values that have been championed in various times in our history, why it's so difficult to get them accepted by large numbers of people, and why these values always seem deeply compromised and often implemented in this very strange and ambiguous ways. And I think it has to do with the fact that deep in our history, going all the way back to the beginning of the colonies and then the independence, is based on deep contradiction. That is, there's the glorious Declaration of Independence and inalienable rights and so forth and so on, and then there's the reality of brutal racism, the way the Native American people were treated, and none of this could be openly dealt with, or it's been dealt with in a variety of ways that are mostly very toxic, and to this day, very difficult to deal with. So, and every country has this kind of history and shapes its sort of myths of what holds them together. What happened in France? You look at the New York Times had a big article on what happened in France. The headline was "Memory Saved Us." That's a quote from one of the French people. A certain vision of the history of France over the last, going back to World War II, and the pain of the collaboration and so on and so on. And anyway, so they could build something there, and how we build something on our profoundly mixed heritage is just terrifically challenging. And there are a few moments where it kind of breaks through. The New Deal is, of course, the great example, and the horrible footnote to the New Deal is that, of course, FDR had support from the segregationist congressmen from the South. So the New Deal was discriminatory in many ways, racially discriminatory in many ways. And even so, it still was a good thing for minority people. So this is what we have to wrestle with. And I don't know, I certainly don't have an easy answer, but I think we need to somehow be able to face it more explicitly.
Rand, I would just offer a somewhat different contrast, that there's the Declaration of Independence on the one hand, and there's the Constitution on the other. And the Constitution starts out by saying, "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, and ensure domestic tranquility for ourselves and our posterity." That is, these are the things that we care about. And they're deeply embedded in American culture, but we forget about them because we focus on the Declaration of Independence and individual rights and all of that. And we forget this idea that we're a commonwealth, that we share values, that it's important that we're together as a community. Everything shifts over to individual self-interest.
Well, if I can, I mean, I taught this stuff for 40 years in law school, and you're certainly right that you can make the argument you just made. Of course, historically, it was usually the other way around. The pro-slavery people relied on the Constitution, including the slave causes and so on and so on. And it was Lincoln's move was to go back to the Declaration, what he called the free, pure air of the Revolution. All men are created equal. That includes everybody. That's what he tried to argue. But American history is just full of traps, and people go down all the time.
Right.
So should we hear from a few other folks who haven't spoken? Lisa, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I'm having a bunch of thoughts, but I'm not sure is the idea that we might be able to influence a situation if we came up with something we agreed with. I'm just picturing, is there overlap from PISLAP spirituality focus to faith groups that might bring in people who would otherwise stay home and not vote? Or should we be thinking about who would be good spokespeople that would draw people from the sitting on the couch and not voting group, which is who I think we're hoping will take us to a slim electoral college victory, right? Is that what we're thinking? Or maybe this isn't a fair question. I'm just not sure what thoughts of mine might be relevant to the discussion.
Yeah, well,
If you could stand hearing my voice one more time, I'll say those are great questions, Lisa. And David Brooks in the New York Times has been writing almost every week, and he says what Trump has that the Democrats tend not to have is Trump has a kind of spiritual position. It's horrible, but it speaks to the need for meaning and spiritual meaning. And the Democrats tend to say, "Oh, we'll lower the price of drugs, or we'll give you this, we'll give you back your student loan," and all this sort of stuff, which is definitely important to people and worth addressing. But it misses what a lot of people think are really motivating a lot of people in this election: the sense of a need for meaning in a broad sense of the word. And PISLAP, in our tradition, we should be able to do something about that. We should have some way to add to that conversation.
Well, Rand, I first have to point out to you that David Brooks is Peter Gable light on this subject, okay? His book, his title, everything is Desire for Mutual Recognition light. I just have to get that in there to represent Peter. Now,
I agree with you.
Okay. Secondly, right, well, that's what I was thinking is, like, do we try to connect with the Poor People's Campaign? Do we, what's out there where there's an attempt at, I mean, certainly labor is going to be out there. And there are a bunch of people in labor who are on either side of this campaign. Sadly, not a bunch. Most of them are with Biden, but yeah, where do we plug in and try to influence and try to bring meaning to it? Yeah.
I hate to rain on your parade, Lisa. I think those are wonderful ideas and thoughts, but we're 3.5 months away from the election, and it seems to be, for this round, a little late in the game to make those connections and those alliances. It would have been better had we started a year ago to think about this and connect with those sorts of groups. And I think there's just not enough time to do that yet.
Well, what if we interacted with people who we thought might have some influence on the message, the campaign's message?
I would like to say one thing here.
Yeah.
This is Stu speaking. I apologize for the no picture. But the most important thing in this issue, I think, is the women. The issues for women are more immediate than it is for us men who get into thinking about, worrying about these things. Women have this love and they know that they've been put down for years and years and years. And these issues for them here are more vital. They're absolutely vital. The abortion issue and the issues like that are so important for women women need to vote from their love and their love for themselves and their lives and their communities. I think that's going to make the difference here. We men try to figure out how we're going to do it in our thinking. Women in general have a feeling love that they respond to, and they vote for that love for themselves and their freedom. And I think we need to stress that in this election, because the women are going to win this for us with our support. That's my view. Love will prevail. Okay, I'm gonna shut up then. Thank you.
Thank you, Stu. Maybe I'll piggyback on Stu and everyone. First of all, I totally agree with what Rand expressed about the importance of talking about what it is that is being offered in terms of meaning. And I think that has always been PISLAP's orientation, that we offer, we think that people should be provided with free healthcare because we care about our community, we care about how people's well-being, and and because of that deep care for each other, we take care of each other when we're ill, and that's a commitment that we have as human beings. So that kind of framing, I think, is so critical. I agree that it does fall flat, some of the very sort of practical, platform statement, which might actually embody a lot of these values, but they're never articulated directly. And similarly with what Stu had just said about, about love and the importance of that, the role that plays, and women's care for each other and for themselves and their own needs, and what makes them feel empowered. I mean, those are all values that are so important here. So one thing we did years ago was, we actually did it twice, is we put together a brief statement. I mean, it was a platform that we presented to the Democratic Party. Now, at that time, we had a contact through Peter. I can't remember her name, actually. Roberta Axenberg, right? Achtenberg, Lisa? Yeah. Of course, Peter also knows Jamie Raskin. So there's some really great contacts. I don't know about Roberta Achtenberg anymore, but Jamie Raskin's still around for sure. I don't know, if just thinking aloud, if we wanted to write a brief statement that maybe, ask the Democratic Party to consider, from the perspective of this kind of grouping, a different way of speaking to the fears and needs of working people. I think that could be very powerful. I don't know, just a thought.
I think Craig wanted to say something a while back, so I wanted to
Craig,
make sure he did.
Craig, and then Lisa.
Thank you. A couple of things come to mind. One is the Marriage Amendment Act that came up in Minnesota 3 months before the vote. It was down 70-30, and 3 months before in Minnesota, and the vote was opposite. It was actually 60-44. So we now have the marriage amendment passed. So timing isn't the issue for me. Also, my feeling is we're totally in unprecedented times. Things are moving so quickly right now with media, you name it. I mean, Biden getting COVID, Trump getting shot. I mean, all within what, 4 or 5 days? I mean, this is something that's never occurred before, and I think all bets are off in many ways. PBS is the only station that's doing live coverage pretty much round the clock. Why? Why PBS? When basically they know the Republicans, if they win, are going to defund public media. They know that.
Or control it.
So there's all sorts of things occurring. When I say we, Center for Purposeful Leadership, are not only, we're not taking a partisan stand on Project 2025. It's an educational thing. And because we know that you can't talk to people about, you can't lecture to them that it's a bad thing. They won't listen. They haven't been. Nobody's listening to facts anymore anyway. So I agree with meaning and purpose and heart and love. And there are many organizations. We're in touch with at least 24 organizations globally that are working to, I think, in total alignment with PISLAP on moving the culture, basically. I think to me, it's a cultural issue here. I don't think it's a political issue in the traditional sense of politics. I think we're talking about, soul. I think we're talking about, when we start talking about meaning and purpose, we're talking about soul, we're talking about spirit. And I loved whoever said that, I forget who said it, that Trump's speaking from a more spiritual place. That didn't resonate, but absolutely true. I mean, when you listen to him, I mean, I may not agree, but he's tapping into something that the Democrats certainly aren't. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Lisa, I know you were waiting.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, if there were an effort like trying to influence the platform like last time, that taking in what everyone's saying now, I would also say that in bringing meaning to issues, I think the most effective vehicle is through personal stories. So if there were personal stories of constituents talking about what Biden-Harris's work has meant to their lives, or even interacting with them has meant in their lives or in their families or interacting with their family members, that I think could begin to touch on the things that Trump touches on.
Trump has
I-
both for himself.
I agree with that idea about the personal stories and what it has meant to them. I think a challenge is the bias against elder people. And the idea that Biden is inspiring and has cared, it communicates care and all of that, doesn't resonate with people. There's not enough energy in him right now. And I don't know how to work with that unless we can get unless we can get Kamala at the top of the ticket, or, get energy where we can talk about his policies, but where people feel a sense of personal connection. Because Biden he's very personable in person, but it's not where he governs from. It's not what he communicates. But I really think that the stories of heartfelt stories of what it means to people, how they have benefited and how that has changed their lives and how they are better connected with others and how that has infused their communities and their lives with positive energy.
Yes, that's love in action. You're right.
So let's find some of those people and fund a TV spot.
Yeah.
Sylvia, is that TV station up and running yet? No.
Years in the future.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's down the road.
I
So
wonder what unions are doing. I mean, unions are the best suited to, SEIU does wonderful stuff along these lines, and I wonder what they're doing. And I have a connection, and I will find out.
Oh, great.
so I need some help. Only now am I realizing the enormous loss to us, to the Democrats in Biden deciding to run. And so we missed the opportunity to have the debates and to choose the best of all the brilliant young politicians that we have in the party. And so now we're pretty well down to just one option. And some of you who are convinced that Kamala is up to this job, can you tell me why? I am not there yet. I want to be there if she's all we got, but I'm not there yet.
So again, I'm noticing Lisa's hand, so I don't know, Nanette, if you're gonna call on people or what.
So I think that was Lisa's hand from before, but Lisa, was your hand up again?
Oh,
I mean, I cannot, I have a million thoughts. I'm
Go ahead.
reacting to Anne, and now I'm reacting to Sylvia. So I don't care if she can pull it off. I only care if she can win. All we need to do is pick someone who can win. We don't need to pick someone who can make it for 4 years. We'll worry about that later.
Yeah,
That's
no, by
my-
pull it off, I mean win the election.
Oh, okay. As opposed
Yes,
to
definitely.
be a president. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, supposedly she has a better shot than Biden.
so I would
The
just
visual,
like,
the visual image of Biden doesn't sell. You know, for undecided people, he shows weakness, but he doesn't project his love, and that's most difficult. It's just a crazy thing because he's got so much smarts and everything, but he doesn't. At this time, we need a salesperson. Whoever that is.
I wanted to respond to Nanette's question at the very beginning, sort of what can we do? And I'm aware that I'm not really an activist. I'm a contemplative by nature. And I think maybe what we could do for one another is to offer that meaning and purpose, at least in this community. And then what people do with that in their own activism is a separate question. So I'm frankly less interested in trying to strategize about what to do, and more focused on how I metabolize all this, what meaning I make of it, how I can stay sane, how I can stay in relationship with other people who are sane. That speaks to me more personally at this point.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that one, Duncan. It's a both and. One of the things that came up for me is playing off of what you talked about, a number of you have talked about the stories we tell. And what if we, and the big we, because I'm not a lawyer, but I am a member of PISLAP. What if we took the communications group, and the communications group interviewed as many members of PISLAP as possible. And we talked about how we're making meaning out of this moment and why this moment is so important to us. And how we see the world and why it's important for so-and-so to win, or whatever, however we want to frame it, and tell our own stories. Because I'm listening to all this, and there's fantastic ideas. So we do these interviews, we do them on Zoom. They don't have to cost anything. We package them and we put it out. There's credibility in being lawyers, if nothing else. And you say, we're PISLAP. This is what we stand for. And this is why this is a very important moment. And we don't all have to agree. But by virtue of this conversation that we're having right now, it's not going to be what Trump is doing. It's not. It's going to be something else that I think would resonate with people who are thinking, what the hell am I going to do? Do I not vote? I know a lot of young people that are saying, Gaza's it, man. Forget it. I'm not voting for anybody. Because they're all a bunch of criminals as far as I'm concerned. And these are smart kids. But they don't see it. So, I think what you just said, Duncan, is really important. Let's put that in short 3-minute interviews.
Yes, I like that.
An idea. Put it out there in the world.
It's like thinking doesn't work. It's feeling that works.
Yeah.
So sharing stories.
Yeah.
Feeling love, and people pick that up. Don't do it from thinking. Thinking takes us away from our hearts.
Mm-hmm. Well,
one of the things that I think is interesting in terms of my reaction to what the Supreme Court has been up to and how devastating that is as somebody who's a lawyer, but also a law teacher. And the emotions I have about it, it's like my whole career is being rendered meaningless from a certain point of view. Like I've always upheld and spoken about certain ideals and certain ways of approaching the law. And as flawed as it has been, it embodies certain values and commitments that I am very committed to. And the problem is, I think, when I talk to people who aren't lawyers, they are very sympathetic with me, and they kind of are also in shock, just with not as much of the detail about why to be so horrified and in shock. But it doesn't, I don't know how to, first of all, there's the danger of it seeming like fear. It's like they've already done this terrible thing and they're going to do more terrible things. So it's like not coming from love and joy and connectedness and all the positives we've gotten. It's about, look at this disaster. And Biden hasn't been able to protect us from that either, by the way. And the second thing is, it seems, although for me, it has deep meaning and spirituality to it. It's like our core institutions have taken this kick to the gut from which they may not recover. Yet it's not kitchen table politics. It's not relatable to the average. People could relate to my pain and distress and sorrow and passionate commitment to do what I can in the face of the breakage. But it's not a rallying cry around, Black women and single moms and, disabled people and working people who are getting screwed and all of that, or who've benefited. So I think that it's challenging to implement this in a way that unites the different threads that people are raising.
And
Yeah.
do you have anybody here have any insight into why the Supreme Court made that decision? I mean, I have no idea.
They're corrupt, they're Christian nationalists, they're pursuing their own agenda. They want Trump to be in office so that they will have more people like them on the court. And they don't give a fuck about public opinion or the other lawyers or the traditions or anything. It's like they have the power and they can use it.
Why get us caught up into our thinking?
That blatant. Okay.
Hold
Thank
back
you.
in. Tell us how you feel. That was
Lisa.
Okay, I'm not going to, I want to respond to what Craig said, or Ann said, but I'm going to say instead, Ann, I think you have the perfect situation in which you can contrast what's happened recently with what could have happened, what we've done in the past, the Supreme Court, the transformative things that the Supreme Court played a role in the past, and what transformative things they could do in the future if the right person was appointing them. Does that help?
I would just add that, Anne, I find myself feeling comforted when I hear what you care about so passionately.
Mm-hmm.
There's comfort there. I feel actually safer. And I think there's something there that we need to pay attention to about the consequence of speaking, and this is from Stu's book, right? Speaking from the heart about what you care about. There's something deeply satisfying about that. So I just want to say thank you. And for me, that's the value of this community.
Yeah, I would echo that. Just the thinking about people, many of us dedicating our lives, as Anne certainly has done, to values that that are seemingly undermined in just one fell swoop to an enormous degree is it's just terribly painful and deeply disappointing. And but I think in a sense us helping to give voice to that, it's sort of the opposite of fear-based, because one then creates the possibility for some positive emotional energy and commitment to arise, and for people to feel more hopeful again. And I think part of the whole thing of articulating the meaning beneath the platform planks, as Rand was pointing out, is so people's more hope. People can feel heard, but also feel that their emotions can move, or their inherent care for each other, which so many people have, maybe not everyone in the country, but in most people, it's deep down, it's there, because that's who we are as human beings. We are basically connected. And, so I guess in a roundabout way, I guess I'm sort of agreeing that, that giving people, even people in PISLAP who have done this work all their lives in many different ways, a chance to express both their deep disappointment and yet their hope, and what they continue to do notwithstanding, I think could be very powerful.
I think one of the ways in which the Trump folks and the right wing and the media and the panic have been effective is to make us doubt that our heartfelt cries of distress and anger and commitment could be heard or could make a difference, and so take us off our center.
Picking up on what was said before, way to do this, we could just have a conversation like this where everybody present share some of their stories. Instead of having a special one for each person, we can do a recording of conversations of us sharing things on a more personal level, where it would be very powerful for people to see that kind of thing without having to highlight each person as somebody special. Just having a conversation where we share at a lower level our stories. Sounds good to me.
Oh, I want to follow up again on what Anne just said about doubt. That it is a tactic of the strong man to sow seeds of doubt, right? This is fake news. You can't trust what you're being told. You can't trust the elites, you know, and then the result of that is you can only trust me, right? I'm the one voice in the cacophony that you can trust. And there's something about providing trustworthiness to people who are so filled with doubt. And I think that's part of where Biden gets in trouble, is that his performance doesn't lead to people trusting him, which has very little to do with the content of what he says or what he's accomplished. It's at a different level. And what I hope is that somehow we can provide sources of trust, trusting just in what we care about. That's why I liked hearing what you said, because then I can trust you. I know what you care about.
Wanted to, sorry, did you want to say something, Sylvia? I see you're wanting to leave.
No, yeah, I'm gonna have to go. Anyway, I appreciate all of you and having this community in this very difficult time. I don't know where we're gonna end up. I'm very concerned. But I appreciate you all putting your thoughts and hearts and energy to it. So thank you.
I just wanted to follow up on what Anne was saying earlier.
Appreciate you.
And I've been looking. Do you remember the conversation we had a few days ago where I found this marvelous quote? I can't remember who from, but it's basically said, it was like imagining. I think it might have been from Camus in France, and he was talking about the struggle against the Nazis, and here he is. He's a French person in Algeria. I mean, he's part of the oppressor class in Algeria, and he's aware of all the things that are wrong in France, or many of them anyway. And he's still standing up for something. And somebody, whether it's him or somebody else, says it's justified, even if when we're fighting something that's all evil or 90% evil by the Nazis, on behalf of something that is only half good, it's still worth doing. And to acknowledge that our liberatory traditions are themselves, they're both wonderful and limited. And we need to somehow be able to handle both of those things. And we need to be able to try to use what's powerful in our traditions the best we can, and also say we need to make them better. That's something like I can find the I'll find the reference for you. Anyway, that's my thought.
It's a wonderful quote, Ron. Thank you. Friends, I know it's getting towards time to break. Craig, I saw your proposal. It's an interesting idea. Maybe we can follow up on email and see what we might do with it.
I think it's easy to do. whatever it is, what I'm thinking of is how do we speak from our hearts about what we really care about? And I think you know, Duncan, a lot of us have, I mean, I'm hearing it from people. What do we really care about, and why do we care? And what,
To speak naturally, you know.
yeah, what would we
You
want?
have to take
What do we
it.
want to have happen? You know? And I think it has an impact. You know, AP just did a poll. Now, I don't believe in polls, but poll after poll says neither candidate is popular. Meanwhile, Kennedy, who we're not talking about, is running between 15 and 17%. That's significant. That's very significant. And my guess is his numbers are only going to climb because people are going to, you know, anyway, that's my 2 cents.
I'm certainly happy to follow up on email to see if with the group that was here today, just to see if people have further thoughts about, you know, this idea of the video or interviewing people, a couple of questions. I love the concept, and it would be good for us to express ourselves as PISLAP in this moment, even if it takes us a few months to put it together. So just to mention to people going forward, Anne has been really supporting, helping to put together a fall program for for our monthly calls. But we don't have any more of these calls planned at the moment, unless so I guess our next call will be sometime in September, yet to be determined. Unless people do want to have another call of this type. So just checking in before we say goodbye and have maybe a moment closing. Craig, you're always so good at leading a closing. Would you be able to close us out? I know you're.
No, I wasn't. Okay. A closing that I like is what's a gift from today and what's a commitment? Combining the two. And a commitment doesn't mean to be, we're going to do this and lead the charge, but a commitment that you're going to make for yourself, whatever it might be. And a declared commitment has power. So if you wish to make it.
Yourself.
So
It's naturally.
why don't we just go in this order? So because we only have 2 minutes. Lisa, Perry, Nanette, Duncan, and Rand, Stu, and myself.
I would say I was reminded that it never crossed my mind to give up, and that I know that eventually justice prevails.
Love prevails. Over and out. Love you guys. Gotta leave. See you next
Bye,
time.
Stuart.
Bye, Stu.
Bye, Stu.
All right.
I'm feeling more optimistic than when we started. I heard a lot of good ideas, and I'm committed to continuing to think about creative ways to bring it about.
So I am touched by just being in this community. It just means a lot to me. And my commitment would be to remember to pay attention to what people care about. Even if I disagree with them, I'm sincerely interested in what they care about.
I'll go next. I think I missed my moment. I'm grateful for just the soul and the depth and the heart in this community and in our PISLAP community. I really feel a lot of gratitude for that. And my commitment is to keep thinking about ways that I can make a contribution, even if they're not always clear. I think helping to bring about a more hopeful arena is one of them.
So I am grateful for the gifts of connection, because that is inspiriting. And always at the beginning of an opportunity for connection, I have doubt that there will be such benefits. And by the end, it's clear how enormous the benefits are. And so my commitment is to keep to all of my practices, all of my spiritual sustaining practices, one of which is PISLAP calls.
My next?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm happy to say I found the quotation I was looking for.
Oh,
Before he died in combat in the last war, Richard Hillary found the phrase that sums up, quote, "We were fighting a lie in the name of a half-truth." He thought he was expressing a very pessimistic idea, but one may even have to fight a lie in the name of a quarter truth. And then Camus goes on to say what he thinks that quarter truth is. And I think that quarter truth for us is what Anne was talking about, and so many of us were talking about, which is connection. And Peter Gable, of course, his great theme. And so in honor of his memory and our practice, I too want to be part of this.
Thank you. My gift is just being present. And as always, when I'm with PISLAP folks, there's a deep resonance with the heart and soul. Brother Stu, Dr. Love is is wonderful in the way he keeps that in front of us, and whatever that means to all of us, I think we get it and express it in different ways. And I'm committed to keep on keeping on. And I'm complete.
thank you, Craig, and thank you for doing that. All right, friends. Be well all. Talk soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.